Hi guys, we're going to talk about congruence today. This is the first section of the new semester. So let's see what we're going to do here. We're going to determine if two figures are congruent. And we're going to do that by measuring sides and angles, identify these things called corresponding parts, and then we're going to write some congruency statements. And that's actually my favorite thing. So you're going to enjoy that. Okay, these are the words we're going to talk about today. So we're going to write some definitions of these. And congruent, corresponding angles, corresponding sides, and vertex. Okay, so congruent we will get to in these. All these will come up in the slides coming up. Okay, so these are the words you need to know. So let's remember how to plot some points. Okay, so the first word up there that we said we needed to know was vertex. Let me get my pen going here. Vertex is just a point on a polygon. And when you say vertices, that means more than one point. Okay, that's the plural of it. So when we graph these, remember you go, this is the X and then this is the Y. So you go left and right and then up and down. So -2, up 1, and then went 0, 4, and then 3 and 2. And when it says vertices, those are the points, and then you can get a straight edge and we're going to connect those. And we see that it's a nice little triangle. So we're going to do this next one here. What would the vertices be on this guy? Okay, so we have A, B, and C. Those are the points or the vertices. And where is A? Well, here's A. If you look in the X direction, it went -2, and in the Y direction, it went up 3. In point B, then, you're going to go to the right 2 in the X direction, and you're going to go up 4 in the Y. And then C, you don't go over at all. So that's 0 in the X direction. We just go down 1 for -1. So that's just a reminder of how those points work. And I think a lot of you will remember how to do that. Now, here is what congruent means. What congruent figures are figures that are the same size and shape. Exact. We're not talking close. We're not talking twins. We're talking identical, the exact same. Because like Jack and Bernie Dorn, they are twins, and one has longer hair and one has shorter hair. Those aren't identical. They have to be the exact same, not just close. So that's this idea of congruence, which is what we're going to be talking about more of in this lesson. If I can get my stuff going together here. Okay, so here are some ideas. We have congruent segments, and you can have congruent angles. And together, those would be congruent parts. So parts like sides and angles are in shape. So I have that triangle. Look, I have 3 sides and I have 3 angles. So the parts that are congruent would be the angles that would be the same, or the sides that would be the same. So in these 3 segments here, notice AB, the segment, and XY, the segment, are congruent. And I know they are congruent because they're both segments and they are the same size. In this case, they're the same length. We can use a tick mark like this to show that they are congruent. That tells the people that, yep, they're the same. We wouldn't put any on 2 because it's different. Congruent angles would have the same measure. So we look here, and angle A and angle B have the same measure, but not angle C. That one's too big. So on those, we would put a marking like this to show that they're equal. If there was more than one picture here, if I had 2 other angles that were congruent, I could have done 2 marks to show that the 2 were congruent to each other. Same thing with tick marks. If I wanted to use 2 tick marks to show that those 2 were equal, I could have done that as well. So now we're looking for the whole shebang. Congruent figures. Congruent figures have congruent sides and congruent angles. 2 figures are congruent if they're the exact same size and exact same shape. So because of that, congruent figures have congruent sides and congruent angles, which we know that's also called congruent parts. Sometimes a lot of geometry teachers say congruent figures have congruent parts, but we know that means sides and angles. So which one of these look like they're congruent? Well, nobody looks like this guy, so that's out. There's no other rectangle, so I have 3 triangles. But in my opinion, this one looks like it might be a little taller than these two. I'm guessing these two might be. But do I know for sure? No, because I don't have any measurements. I don't know for sure the angles or the sides are congruent and there's no tick marks. So I think it's these two, but it just looks that way. So we're going to talk about how important those measurements are and how we can tell for sure. So we might get some practice with a protractor today, but if I use the boxes, I can kind of count too to see how long these things are. So how long is it from C to B? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we say units. Up and down, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. Now, for this guy, I can't really use a ruler. If I had graph paper, I could cut the graph paper and line it up straight so that I could count. Your choice is you either use the graph paper for everything to measure or you use a ruler. We're just not going to measure this side right now because I don't have graph paper cut out. But if I wanted to, I could use a ruler on everything too. But I use the units. And I'm going to look at a protractor here. I think I have one somewhere. I might actually have to go here to find it. View, tools, math tools, protractor. All right. Oh, there it is. So if I want, this looks like it's 90 degrees. How can I make sure? Well, you put the crosshairs of a protractor right on the point and the arrows you're going at there. And then you can see there's numbers on the inside and there's numbers on the outside. Well, when I'm looking at this angle, it is 90 degrees. Doesn't matter which side you use. So this guy is 90. I could have put a box there. That might have been better for us, wouldn't it? If I use this guy over here, I put the crosshair right on the point and I line it up so that it goes through this bottom segment. It's kind of off a little bit, but not too bad. Oops, I made it smaller. There you go. And I can tell this is that little angle and it looks like it's going through here. They're even trying to help me a little bit. It looks like it's at 35 and it says 35.9. So we'll just say 36. Now I could use triangles add to 180 to find the last one if I wanted to and just take 180 minus 90 minus 36. But I'll go ahead and show you how this works. We'll wing this guy around, line it up, maybe move it up a little bit here. Okay, whoopie doopie. So there's 0. And where's this guy coming through here? It looks like at 50. Well, we know it's supposed to be 54. That's not exactly what mine looks like, but I might have been a little bit off on the other one. So we'll say this is 54. So when we know what the angles are, it will help us to see if things are congruent. Hopefully, they will just give us the angles on our assignment. Okay, so which one of these are congruent? Well, we would have to measure, wouldn't we? So I'd have to get a ruler out and measure to see which ones have the same lengths or side. But if I go to the next slide, they already have the measurements for me, which is so much easier because now I can tell and I don't have to use these stinking tools. So let's see what we have. A 26. This one has a 26. So let's go ahead and put an arc here and an arc here. This one doesn't have a 26. So I'm not quite sure what these two are, and I don't want to measure. So we'll wait a minute. This says 4.7. This says 4.7. So I can do a tick mark there. A tick mark there. 6.8. That matches 6.8. Let's put 2 on that to make sure we know those are equal. 38 and 38. Those two are equal. And 3.3 is 3.3. That gets the 3 markings. And then 116 and 116. That will give 3 little arcs. It's a little sloppy, but sometimes our pictures do. So this one is not congruent, and these are the two figures that are congruent. And we know that because their corresponding parts are congruent. Their matching parts are equal, the exact same size and shape. How about these two? Do we need tools to help us here? Well, let's see. How long is X to Z? 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 4. Is there any others that have 4? 1, 2, 3, 4. And count this. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one's 5. So that's not it, unless some of these others. So you might need to use a ruler to check with this. But you can also do some little life hacks like this. Look, this is over 1 and up 1, 2, 3, 4. So any of these go over 1 and up 4? 1, 2, yeah, these two look like they're equal. This one goes over 1, up 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's equal to that. All three of those have one of those equal. This one goes down 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So those two are equal. This one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's not equal. So these are the two that are congruent. Or you could get out a ruler and measure, but it's way easier when they give you the information. Let's practice on these. Two of them are congruent. Which one is not congruent? So which one is not congruent? Which one does not match? Well, let's see. We have a 2.8. Does anything match a 2.8? Here's a 2.8. Here's a 2.8. And here's a 2.8. So they all have 2.8s. That's good. This has a 2.6. Any others have a 2.6? Yep, here's one. And here's one. Oh, wait. This one has two 2.6s. Did any other one have two 2.6s? No. So these two look like they might be the ones that all match up, and this one is not congruent. Corresponding means matching. So when we say corresponding sides, it's a side that matches on its congruent figure. So if I tell you these two are congruent, okay, these two figures are congruent, we can figure out which ones match up. Well, how can we tell? Well, look, do you see how AB Actually, I wouldn't have done AB first. I would have done AC. AC is definitely the smallest, right? Which one does AC match up with over here? Well, DF is also definitely the smallest. So that corresponds or matches with DF on the other one. Now, BC is the side that does not make the right angle. So what would BC match with? That will match with EF. And then AB matches with, you got to be careful with the order here, matches with D A E, excuse me, D E. So those would match as well. And that's how you find the congruent sides, the corresponding sides, the matching sides. And the angles match as well. Angle D is at the top at the right angle, would match up with angle A. So this is like kind of a pattern to see which one matches with which. E, put 2 there, will match with this little small angle here, which is angle B. And angle F, which is the last one, will match with the last one over here, angle C. So corresponding means matching. You need to figure out how they line up. And what we do with this is we can write a statement. Because mathematicians love to do these markings, this statement will tell us which ones match. Look, F has 2, I has 2, G has 1, J has 1, H has 3, K has 3. So you can see where all the matching is. And 3 and 3, tick marks, 1 and 1, and 2 and 2. Well, what we can do with these matching marks is we can find the pairs way quicker. So find the corresponding parts. What does LM match to? Well, LM has 1. What has 1 here? It's PQ. And they wrote segment PQ, but we can just write PQ with a segment bar because we're smart here. Angle R. Angle R is down here with 1. What does it correspond to? Well, angle N has 1. So to find the matching, you just need to find the matching symbols. Based on these markings, which figures will be congruent then? So we got to see which ones all match up. So here's a 1, 2, and 3. Does this one have 1, 2, 3? No, this has 2, 2, 3. This one has a 1, 2, 3. So based on the sides, these two are congruent. Double check the angles. That has 1. That has 1. This one doesn't even have a little 1 angle. So this guy is out. ABC and JKH match up. They are the congruent figures. Oh, what do the statements apply? Let's practice. Triangle ABC is congruent to DEF. Well, let's see. Do they match up? What do we have here? We have 1, 1, 3. Do we have 1, 1, 3 here? No, we don't. We have 2, 3, so that's not quite true. Does DEF match with GHI? Well, let's see what happened here. D has 1, G has 1. This has 2 here, and that has 3 here. This one doesn't have a mark, but it could be 1. We have a square and an angle. Yeah, they are congruent. We really just didn't mark that this guy is the same as that guy. Triangle ABC is congruent to GHI. Do these two match? No. Again, we had the 1, 1, 3, and that's not the case. And that means that all 3 triangles are not congruent. So this is a symbol for congruent, and the congruent symbol kind of looks like an equal sign. And it really kind of does the same thing as an equal sign, but we use equal signs for numbers, and we use the congruent sign for pictures and figures. We also use those tick marks like we said, and look what they said here. XY is congruent to PQ, and that way you don't have to write out the big long word, congruent. Well, this congruent symbol lets you do some pretty cool code writing, okay? So when you have 2 triangles or 2 figures that are congruent, you have to write it a certain way. This is very, very important. Once you know they're congruent, that's easy. You're like, yep, they're congruent. Look, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1 box, 2 squiggles, 3, 1, 2, 3. They're definitely congruent. The way you write the statement is you name the first guy whatever you want, and they named it triangle IJK. Now, to say that it's congruent, though, when you write the second one, you have to use the corresponding parts. Because I is first and I has 3, you have to put the one that has 3 first on the second triangle, L. J has the box, M has the box, N has 2 with K that has 2. If I would have named the first triangle something different, that's not even a triangle sign, Mrs. Bruno. If I would have named it triangle JKI, then I would have had to write J matches with M, K matches with N, and I matches with L. So you would have to rearrange the orders. So it's kind of like a code. And in this code, you can also find the segments, not just the angles. Do you see how IJ are the first 2 letters? Well, IJ has 2 marks. The first 2 letters here, LM, has 2 marks. JK has 3 marks. MN will have 3 marks. And then the outside IK has 1, and LN will have 1 as well. So that statement is loaded. They can look a lot of ways. Once you know the figures are congruent, you just name the first one whatever you want. And the second one you have to match up with the corresponding parts. So let's practice. Which one of these will be right? Are they congruent? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1 mark, 1 mark, 3, 3. Yep, it's congruent. So you name the first one whatever you want. Well, they named this one PQN. Okay. So they named it PQN. Now everything has to match. What matches with P? S. Uh-oh. Did they put S first? No, they put T first. So that can't be right. This is not right. P is supposed to match with S. Well, this one could be right. Q has 2. Does it match with T? Yeah. And N and R. Yep, this one is right. But what if they would have named it NQP? They could have. That's okay. N has 3. N's supposed to match with R. Does N match with R on this one? No. N matches with R on this one. That's okay. Q has 2. It's supposed to go with T. Is Q supposed to go with S? No. So there's only one that's correct here. But you could have wrote it multiple different ways if you wanted to, so you still had to check. So let's use the statement to find the fun facts. They're talking about the segments. WX, does it match FG? Well, WX are the first 2. Oh no, FG is the last 2. That's not true. How about WY? WY is first and last. E and G is also first and last, so that's true. Does X match with F? Well, X is second. F is second. That is true. And does G match W? G is last, W is first, so that's not right either. So it's all about finding what's in the right spots. Here's some in some graph paper. We get to practice it twice, but just for time, we're only going to practice it once. They are congruent. Okay, they told us it's congruent, so we're going to write the statement. Well, let's put some marks in first. This is equal to this. That's the right angle. This is a little 2-piece that matches with this 2-piece. This is the straight one, that's 3. This one has 3 then. That gets 2, and we'll put 3 here. So the one between the 1 and the 3, this one I didn't even put the 3, X, we're going to put between the 1 and the 3 here with the L. Okay? The one between the 2 and the 3, G, is going to go with Z, and the boxes go the same. So we know they're congruent. Name the first guy whatever you want. Let's name it XYZ. The second guy definitely matters. What matches with X? My X had 1. This one had an L for the 1 spot. Y has the box. M has the box. Z has 2. I don't even remember which one of mine had 2. And it looks like G had 2 in my sloppy picture. Okay, so what did we do? We determined they're congruent by looking at all their corresponding parts, and you might have had to measure to do that, but it's way easier when they tell you. Find the parts that match and write those congruency statements, which are like a code. Don't forget, these are the key concepts, everything we went over. If you want to put any of those in your notes, that's going to help you today. Thanks, guys.